So, buenos dias, Peter.
Buenos dias. Good morning, Felix.
Good morning. Would it be possible for you to share with us how long have you been doing the Gerson therapy for?
Oh, it's quite a while. And I have to admit that originally I thought it would be a few years and that would be done. But no, I love it and I cannot live without that now. But the first time I was diagnosed with my situation, and I figured out that there is not really a treatment but bone marrow transplant, which I was scared of. It's drastic. So I was fortunate that my wife is physician and she studies a lot about nutrition, and she suggested to me to look at option to go to Gerson Clinic in 2014. So it's been 10 years now. So now I am here for the second time for so-called refresher. And I believe it is for several reasons. Number one, I of course wanted to refresh my knowledge about development and science, which is new. And I really learned that there are a few really new things. So Gerson Therapy is alive. It's not that protocol. And examples, for instance, in 2014, berries were not recommended. Now they are recommended. In 2014, we were supposed to eat half of banana per week. Today, you can eat bananas every day. And I guess balsamic, for instance, was one of the seasonings which was not recommended, or balsamic vinegar. Now it's recommended. I could go with more examples. So I've learned some stuff. So one thing was to learn new stuff. Second thing, I enjoyed being here in 2014. So I was looking to see some faces. And of course, I wanted to support Gerson Clinic, an idea, by coming here and talking to patients and showing the respect. So it's been over 10 years. That's a simple answer to your questions. And second added benefit is I cannot live without that anymore. I love it. So
good. Well, you mentioned that this is your second time here with us. After your first time coming to the clinic, how did you prepare your home to continue the Gerson therapy after you left the clinic that first time?
Oh yeah, that was a tough part, and I believe that what was good was we received the books about Gerson treatment, so I read it before I came, and I purchased the juicer, very important part. There was a Norwalk juicer, and I could add on that. It's very good investment. By the way, the juicer is still working after 10 years.
Good.
With one little maintenance. And maybe I could add that when I travel, and I go quite often, I teach in Europe, in Asia, I try to take a small juicer with me. So I bought few juicers, and they all are gone. And that Gerson juicer, also the quality of juice is much better. And the last thing I could add about that Norwalk juicer, which I have, is that you spend much less money for your basically veggies, carrots, and salads, which you use to make juices. It's much more efficient. So juicer was number one. Number two, I believe was important to figure out where I could get my resources. So search for organic food, search for supplies, and talking to those shops. We are maybe blessed, I should say, that in the little town of Carbondale in Illinois, we have Coop, where they sell a lot of certified organic stuff. And also Kroger, Schnucks, and Whole Foods are very good resources of that. And you need to make sure that you have that available. So that was a second thing which I would recommend to look at or to get ready when you are planning to do this Gerson therapy. And the third thing, we were thinking about help, and we had a help. Although my beautiful wife is big support for me and she helps me a lot, the initial few weeks, month was really, really tough until you get used what is necessary, until you will arrange everything at home. So arranging for help, whether it's friends or someone you pay for it or some other resources, is a good thing to prepare, because even if you have beautiful and willing partner, spouse, it's overwhelming in the first few months, and it's easier if you do have a help. And then I believe I would like to suggest to purchase supplements. Yes, while you are in here, they design your protocol, which is unique for each patient, and they show you which supplements you should use. So when I was at Gerson Clinic, I purchased my supplements for, I don't remember, in 2014, but it was maybe 4 months or 3 months, and it was really convenient. And then you need to keep an eye on it, yes, and keep purchasing it in accord with other recommendation. Now, of course, you need to arrange for your other stuff, coffee breaks, yes. You need to have a space where you could comfortably, in tranquility, perform those. So we dedicated one bathroom, and we purchased a bed and holder, and that was in the area where you have faucet with flowing water, with toilet, and with shower. And it's very helpful if you could do it in one room, because many patients will figure it out. Sometimes you cannot walk too far when you do coffee breaks. And of course, what was quite important, what I this was not purchased or anything else. At Gerson Clinic, we created some nice relationships. We talk while being here. So that stay here, I stayed for 2 weeks, both times. It was really nice to talk to people and discuss their approaches, their strategies, their challenges. Originally, I'll be honest, I was scared of being in one room, eating, having breakfast, lunches, dinners with people who are really not healthy. And I thought it will be depressing. No, that's not true. And keeping contacts, my wife and I, we do still have friends which we talk to and communicate, and so that was what I gained by being at Gerson. And now, of course, big advantage, and I haven't mentioned that originally, they teach you here how to do things, and it's not always easy to learn that by studying only books. So this is a huge kind of contribution to a successful Gerson therapy, because if you'd like a success, you really need to do that as much as possible, as close as possible to 100%, whatever is recommended. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you mentioned buying the juicer and looking for suppliers of the produce that you're going to
Yes.
be needing while doing the therapy at home. Besides those two things, do you have any extra suggestions of what patients would need to purchase to start continue doing the therapy at home?
Honestly, those supplements
Oh yes, the supplements
which
as
I
well.
mentioned, and some, of course, you need to do buy the hardware kits. You need to buy that bed. You need to arrange your environment. Those are small details, but
Okay.
definitely, of course, I don't think it's necessary, but it's very helpful and convenient to have your room when you do coffee breaks equipped fully with whatever you need. Yes.
Okay.
So I believe those were the major things which I needed, and other than that, you need a great spouse, but you cannot purchase that.
No, you can't. Okay. Well, knowing that you have been doing the therapy for so many years now, have you figured out any meal prepping tips when at home?
Yeah, absolutely. You can make it easier on you, and you can make it harder. Now, of course, I or we try to follow recommendations. So, for instance, when we make a Gerson soup, yes, Hippocrates soup, it's called, we follow literally whatever we should put in there, yes, and we always make it for 2 days and no longer. And that's very important because it could get sour. And I noticed that, and I would recommend not to go.
Yeah.
When we purchase carrots and when we purchase green leafy veggies, we bring them home and we have separate containers where we store them in fridge. Some people recommend buying a next or one more fridge to have a space just for this. We did have already 2 fridges, so we didn't need to buy it. It's definitely convenient,
Mm-hmm.
particularly if you have still family and you need some food for your other members.
All
But
right.
storing it, we made slight differences. For instance, preparing carrots, we typically buy them for 1 week, and when we bring them home, we remove them, we chop those ends, and in our container we have lids which kind of seal them,
Mm-hmm.
and we stick them to fridge. And then when we use them, we wash them. I wash them in a normal water, and then I later on figure out that our normal water is not as clean as I wish, and maybe this should be told in your previous questions. We even drilled our own well, but
Oh.
it was not right after I came. We noticed that we have fluorides in it, and we had developed a need, and we found that we do have a resource of water, and we are small town, out of city borders, and the water is quite okay, but we have filtration. And also inside we purchased a distiller, small distiller, and after a while we figure out that it was too much to distill water and we were always short.
Yeah.
So we installed a reverse osmosis. And in that reverse osmosis, I probably, and it's true for distilled water, I wanted to add something. I'm also a scientist. In that case of reverse osmosis, many manufacturers recommend you drink it, and it's fine. And in fact, you shouldn't drink constantly water which was either distilled or because it will impact your osmotic pressure in your body. But there are different reverse osmosis systems. They filter water, they get rid of impurities, but there are still some things like chlorine and some volatile organic compounds, they call them VOCs.
Uh-huh.
If you could have reverse osmosis with carbon filter, and they sell them as one unit, it will take care of that. The same distiller if you distill the water, run it through carbon filter, or they call it activated carbon filter. And modern systems have nanocarbon, which is larger surface area and does better job. And I wanted to add one more thing. Current reverse osmosis systems, some of them are equipped with unit which remineralize that water. And in that case, it's safe to drink it. Yes. So, and there is a lot of confusion amongst people. So if you should see which system you have. So we have system with carbon. We don't have remineralization, but we only use that reverse osmosis or sometimes distilled water to cook, to make teas, to make soup, to wash our produce. And as I started to talk about these carrots, when we use them, we wash them also in reverse osmosis water. Because even if you have your own well and you have your filtration system, it typically does not get rid of all impurities, even the best ones. So reverse osmosis does the job. And I analyzed that water every year, and we replace filters every year. That's very important, because if you don't, it's losing efficiency.
So you will need to change the filters of those systems
reverse osmosis system once a year. That big filtration, which filters water for entire house, once in 10 years.
Wow.
Yep. And I believe that carrot which we wash, when we use them, it's done quick. Yes. And with salads and leafy stuff, Swiss chard, romaine, red leaf lettuce, green leaf lettuce, and all those which we eat, when we buy them, we review them. If there are some compromised leaves, we take them right there, but we keep them in those bins in the refrigerator, and we only wash them right before usage. We don't wash them ahead.
Okay.
And I guess in the morning or right before you make the juice, you can wash them, and it's helping. So you don't need to do it every time, or you have it prepared for entire week in your fridge. Now, I sometimes was thinking about storing less than 1 week.
Okay.
And my wife still believes that for 1 week it's better, and it saves you sometimes. Naturally, I still work, but I have 4 miles to my office, and from my office around 3 miles is a shop which has all this organic stuff. So that's blessing. So sometimes I prefer to go and basically buy for 2 days and do it. And that happens mostly when she works. She works in St. Louis hospital, and sometimes she leaves for a week, 10 days, and I'm on my own now. So even when I am on my own, I am able to follow that program by doing this. So those would be probably some tips. And maybe what I wanted to say when we talk about doing that program and preparing those tips, do it as close as you can, ideally 100%. That helps. Yes. On my therapy, I was watched by major top university in St. Louis, and they basically decided not to do bone marrow transplant, and they keep telling me, do whatever you're doing because it works. And they said, if we did your bone marrow transplant, we would think that we fix you, but it's not. And my values really improved. And I've seen that, but it was not after 2 weeks at Gerson.
Mm-hmm.
It was not even after 2 years. It was constantly, slowly improving. So, for instance, white blood cells I had in 16, 19,000. Now I am in norm, around 6,000. Red blood cells, hemoglobin, and all other markers. I don't want to bother people with that. It's working, yes. And I believe people who decide to do that should do it as religiously as possible, and then it works. And my experience after a while, and I was also traveling a lot. I mentioned I teach in Europe, for instance. Sometimes I go there for a month. So I have that smaller juicer. I have, before I go anywhere, even in US, I go to internet and I try to find where are my resources. And I have not Norwalk, because that's pretty heavy, but I have a small Omega juicer, which I carry with me. And at some places and some universities I go regularly, they bought juicers and they do that with me. So I stay on 3 juices, and it's really rare that I don't have Gerson protocol, but it happened. We were at Machu Picchu in Peru with my wife, and we walked for 4 days, stayed 3 days in tents, and it was literally impossible. Although they were kind enough, they guaranteed organic plant-based diet for me. So it was fantastic. And I always look where those places are, either organic restaurants, if not organic, at least vegan restaurants. And I ask them not to put oil, salt, and sugar on it. And then, of course, shops. Like, we have kiddos in Chicago, and I go to Whole Foods in Chicago, and they even make juices for me, fresh juices. They have centrifugal juicer, but it's better than buying just that juice, because there are dead juices available. Yes, so you can buy organic carrot juice in Italy, in France, in Germany, in Austria, in Czech Republic, but it's dead. So instead of that, I do. One experience I had was funny. We were staying in a hotel. It was in Garmisch-Partenkirchen in Germany, and we brought juicer from US without reduction, and they have different voltage, so I plugged it in, turned it on, and all hotel was without power. So you need to adjust to that if you travel, but in those first 2 years we try to avoid traveling. And to some extent, there are some limitations that we don't go out as often as we used to. But we invite friends. They all know what we are doing, and they all respect that. If you have really good friends and good group of support, it's a big, big benefit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, muchas gracias, Peter, for sharing your experiences with us. And gracias.
It was pleasure, and thank you guys. Thanks to Felix. Thank you to Dr. Cervantes and stuff. It's fantastic here. That kitchen staff, nurses, very supportive and encouraging, and it's pleasure to spend 2 weeks or at least 1 week here. And even if you feel you know how to do Gerson, it's always good to refresh and see your young-looking old friends. My pleasure, Felix.
Muchas gracias.